In this series of videos, we're going to be talking about how to use run charts in order to display data from healthcare quality improvement projects. In order to understand what's going on in these videos, you're probably going to want to have some understanding of healthcare processes, basics of quality improvement, knowledge of how to use Excel or spreadsheet software, and a little bit about basic statistics. In this first video, we're going to be talking about basics of run charts and show you how to create a run chart. And then in later videos, we're going to be talking about how to interpret those. So what goes into making a run chart? Well, a run chart is a way to display data of a continuous process over time. And the data that's going to be displayed on it is data that's formatted in an n per x sort of relationship. So what I mean by that is events per week, tests done per day, admissions to the hospital per month, something along those lines. The run chart will let you view the trend of these events over time, and doing so in that way may be superior to just looking at a pre-post test. This trend over time gives you a little bit richer look at your data. Another thing that's nice about run charts is that they can be easily labeled with the times when you've made some sort of a change to a process. So you can throw an arrow or a line or some other kind of reminder on there to say, here is where we did this intervention, and then you can use that to determine whether or not that intervention was correlated with the change that you observed in your data. The elements of a run chart include the horizontal axis, which is going to be your time, days, weeks, etc. On the vertical axis, you're going to put whatever measure it is that you're interested in. That could be a process measure, an outcome measure, a balancing measure, so on. You're going to have at least one line that represents the data that you're interested in. You'll often have some sort of median or other control for comparison. And then you may or may not want to add statistical or goal boundaries to your chart. We are going to talk in later videos about statistical assumptions, but one thing that's important to mention right up front is that you want to establish a baseline, typically with at least 10 points of data. And the reason for that is you need a certain minimum number of observations in order for the statistical assumptions that we're going to talk about later to be valid. If you're interested in reading more about this, I strongly recommend this reference from Perla in the BMJ Safety and Quality. So let's move on to creating our first chart. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create some data here and then map it out for you, and where it's going to look a little bit like this. So the interval, this is our time interval. We're going to call this days of the week. So 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And one of the things that's nice about Excel, if you've not used this before, is this little function here where once you've got some data in a pattern, you can grab this little green box and pull it down, and it will continue that pattern for you to help autofill boxes. So we're looking at days of the week. Let's look at, say, admissions to the internal medicine service from the ER. And so I'm just going to create some pseudo-random data here where we talk about there's going to be 12 admissions this day and 8 that day. It was a little bit of a slow day there, and then we've got a 10 and a 9, and let's round it out with another 12 here. There. Okay, so there's our 10 basic points. So we're going to use this to calculate a median to see what's the average number of admissions per day here. And the way we do this is we go over here to median, and we hit equals. MED is going to bring up median. Hit tab to fill that out, and then select the data that you want. So we're going to select this data here, and then close parentheses, and now our median is 12. And we can copy this, paste it down here, and you'll note that you get this drop box, and if you hit paste and paste just the value, then it's not going to copy this, because this is an equation up here, so this is just a value. So then we can hit this value, copy it all the way down, copy it all the way down to here, and now we're going to get this list of data. We'll come back to median 2 in just a minute. So now what we can do is we can select these data here. We'll go up here to Insert, and this little thing here says Line Chart. So we're going to insert a line chart that looks like this. And so now this is our first little run chart. And so what we have on it, on the x-axis, is time. What we have on the y-axis here is the number of admissions. And you'll notice that I've got this random data in a blue line, and I've got a median here of 12 that's displayed after, it extends after this data goes on. So now let's introduce a change to this system. Let's say that we introduce a new admitting officer who's responsible for trying to keep unnecessary admissions from the hospital. And so we're going to watch this process for another 10 weeks and add some data that's looking a little bit like this. Okay, so some more pseudo-random data there. You'll notice that as I fill this in, since Excel was planning to map this entire box of data here, the graph automatically filled in and showed you what happened. So it looks like, just intuitively, this grouping of numbers up here is different from this grouping of numbers down here. And we'll talk about the rules to prove that later. But just in terms of looking at the chart, what we want to do at this point actually is to say, well, this looks like, we've got a new grouping down here. Maybe we need a new median. We need to recalculate because our process has reached a different steady state. So what I'm going to do is actually delete these values here of median number 1. That shortens that graph there. And we're going to calculate a new median for this second part of the process. So let's go over here. Equal sign, median, tab, select your data, close parentheses, and now our median is 7. So we can copy, paste it as a value, extend it down, and now we've got our new median. It hasn't shown up here because this was a new column that wasn't in this original chart. So now we're going to need to just delete this chart and make a new one here of these 3. Okay, go to Insert, Line Chart, like so, and now you have got a run chart with your original process and a new median after your process has changed. If you want to get fancy with it, you can either take this picture here and copy paste it into PowerPoint and add some word art or arrows, that sort of thing. But you can also do that here within Excel. So if we go over here to, no, not insert symbol there, but if we go, here we are, shapes, that's what I wanted. And now I've got an arrow picked, so I can create a little arrow here. I can say that this point on the chart right here, and then let's go back to Insert, and I'm going to put in a text box. Draw a little text box here. I can drag that over this, and then my text box can say, new AOD process started here, right? So you can move this all around and put it wherever you want to on your graph, and then you're good to go. So there's your new run chart. All right, so that is the conclusion of this first video. In the next 2 videos, we are going to be talking about how to apply formal statistical rules for interpreting run charts.